Where will your team land on our 2024 predictions? Heyo, Chris here, and welcome to the Delta. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to do something a little bit more fun. I had something more educational planned originally for recording, but I got a tooth extracted today and decided to pivot and do something a little bit fun just prior to the 2024 season. So hopefully my face isn't too swollen, and we'll get through this and have a good time deciding who's going to be the worst and who's coming in first. Let's find out. Okay then, let's get started. We're going to be predicting where we think the teams will land in the standings come the end of this 2024 season. We'll be going backwards from worst to first. And to start off with, we're going to start with Haas. What can we say about Haas? Well, it's Haas. They weren't good last year, and they won't be good this year. They have a new team principal in Ayo Komatsu, who seems to have ambition and drive, but was dealt a really bad hand. You know, getting that position right after Steiner got fired kind of late, in my opinion. And he's already admitted that the car is probably not where they want it to be. So they have that going against him. Kevin Magnussen hasn't been too inspiring over the years, and Nico Hülkenberg seems to be an all-right driver, but he is held back by the car he's driving. So there's just too many things going against Haas for me to think that they're going to finish any better than back of the pack, particularly in 10th place. So you have essentially a new car with no data, a new team principal learning the ways of running a team, and drivers that aren't able to perform in an underperforming car. Maybe they finish strong, but the woes they will encounter throughout the season will just be too much, so I have Haas at number 10. Alright, moving on to number 9. I have Stake at number 9. It's kind of simple. Despite the car looking really cool, I just don't think the performance is there for it. And with Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu just being your regular run-of-the-mill race car drivers, I don't see them doing anything that's going to make a underperforming car perform better, particularly in the points. So you have regular race car drivers and a underperforming car. I don't see anything but a disappointing year from them. And the only reason I don't have them in 10th place is because Haas exists. At number 8, I have Williams. Now, Williams finished 7th last year in the standings. And I honestly think that the team will be better than last year's team, and even the car will be better than last year's car. The problem they're going to run into is Alpine and RB. If one of those teams or both of those teams drop the ball throughout the season, I can see Williams performing better than them and finishing 7th or even 6th in the standings. But since I do think Alpine and RB will have a better overall season, it kind of just puts Williams at the 8th position. It's that weird situation where they're going to be a better team and they're just not going to finish well. And hopefully that doesn't spiral them into a descent that they can't dig themselves out of. Their car, while it's not great by any real standards, is getting better. And Alex Albon is a pretty good driver and also looking for a better seat on a better team come 2025. I see a surprising amount of points coming from them that will catapult them out of the dregs of Formula One into a promising team in the future. But just, again, not enough to springboard them into more standings. And then there's also Logan Sargent. For him, as an American, I can't not root for Logan Sargent. He's not great, but I think he is improving. But he's still green, and it's not like he's a race car savant where he's just going to hop into a car and start doing amazing things. I think he's going to have to be a guy that just gets developed slowly and over time, and maybe down the road we'll see how good he is. In all honesty, though, if F1 wants some American support, I think it's going to take more than 3 races at fancy locations. They need an American driver to give the fans something to root for on the American side. And while I personally can sit here and cheer on Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, the casual American fan is just not going to get too excited about Verstappen winning or Checo winning or Leclerc winning. What I know about America and American sports, we like to root for the home team. Logan Sargent is that guy. So I look for Sargent to make some strides from his rookie year, getting a few more extra points and exciting the American fan base a bit, thus helping Williams be a respectful team on the rise. But overall, while Williams will finish 8th, which could be worse than last year's finish, like I said, it's not going to be because they will be bad. It'll be because the other teams just perform better. I see the point differential, though, between the 6th, 7th, and 8th position being really tight, where like a DNF here or a poor quality there can be the difference between those 3 teams fighting for higher standings. So we'll see. But for now, I have Williams at 8th. And then that will bring us into number 7, where I have Alpine. I think this is going to be the team that underperforms the most this year. We all know Haas isn't good. We all know Williams has a young driver and still learning. We know that Stake is going to be an underperforming car as well as underperforming talent on the team. But Alpine is supposed to be competitive. They have decent drivers, okay drivers. They should be getting points and competing with the mid-tier teams of the likes like Aston Martin and so on. So their expectation is up there. But I just don't see it. Aston Martin and RB are going to be extremely competitive with better drivers and better cars, in my opinion. I really like Esteban Ocon, but I just don't think his performances are going to warrant many points in that car throughout the season. Likewise, Pierre Gasly is a fun driver who pushes all the time. I love his aggressiveness and his pushing attitude. But again, the car's performance, plus because Gasly tends to push so hard, I see a few more DNFs in his future that will just prevent the team from getting the points that it's going to take to get above 7th position. For the 6th spot, I have a surprise finish. Coming from AlphaTauri 8th place finish last year to the RB finishing 6th place this year. It's the new car, a new name, a new look. I think they're going to come out swinging. Plus, you have Danny Ricciardo, who's racing for a better seat in the future, for a better team. With Sergio Perez's seat up for grabs at the end of the season, I think Ricciardo is really going to bring his best, thinking that he might be able to get into that seat if Perez doesn't perform this year. And his only limitation, in my opinion, will be what the car can do. So since it's not the best car, I just don't think they're going to get all the points. But I think Danny Ricciardo will have a good season, giving RB some good finishes. And let's be honest too, Yuki Tsunoda isn't horrible. He's a solid race car driver that deserves to be in Formula 1. If he had a better car, he may be even up for higher accolades. So because the car is limited in my opinion, but the drivers are good to above average in my opinion, I see them fighting for spots in the mid-ranks. On to 5th place. The mid of mid positions. I have Aston Martin. The reason I got them there is, well, they have Lance Stroll. And as long as they have Stroll, they will always be in the front of the mid-tier pack. The car is usually always good, and Fernando Alonso is not bad at all. He's one of my favorite race car drivers, to be honest, and it's really dawning on me now that I kind of enjoy how the Spaniards drive in Formula 1. But anyway, Alonso's going to get some points, he's going to get some podiums, and maybe even a race win. So there's going to be points to be had, and I don't think any of the teams below Aston Martin are going to get those kinds of points. So as long as this team has Stroll, Aston Martin will stay mid, but as long as Alonso can perform, they have a spot that's approaching, the upper echelon. They're going to be competitive. And now we'll move on to 4th place. And this is the part where it gets kind of difficult to differentiate because we're starting to get to the good teams. But I think this year, 4th place will belong to Mercedes. The car is going to be beautiful on the track, but I just don't see it performing as well as Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton will want it to be. They've been struggling over the years since Hamilton's dynasty, and I don't doubt Mercedes is working arduously at making the car better, but they're not the only ones making their cars better. So is the rest of the field. So there's a good chance that they can prove me wrong, but from what I've seen in the past, I'm going to have to see it now to believe that they're going to be a better team. I mean, you have to think too, Hamilton is in a lame duck year with aspirations of winning with Ferrari. That doesn't mean he's not going to try to win with Mercedes, but I can just see areas this season where Hamilton is in 6th place and the car's not performing up to his standards, and he just goes, you know what? I'm just going to ride these hards out and try my best, but 6th, 7th position might be what happens. And then you have George Russell, who's a decent driver. Don't get me wrong. He can race with the best of them, but I don't think he's the breadwinner. He's exciting, he's fun, but not the guy who's going to take a decent but not great car to the promised land. So just by that, with a Hamilton that might be a little uninspired and a George Russell that can't make more or get more out of a car than maybe Lewis Hamilton can, I just don't see them getting the points that are necessary to get them in the top 3. Now, talking about top 3, I have McLaren. To me, McLaren is the team of the year. Last year, they started off flat, but finished strong. I don't anticipate that kind of start this year. I just see a continuation from last year's ending going into this year. And the reason I don't have them actually higher is because of Piastri. I just don't see them getting past 3rd with him, because I just don't see Piastri getting the points accrued to get McLaren that next step above. But Lando is going to have a great year, in my opinion. I think he might even win a race, maybe even 2. He has the talent, he has the skill, and that if that car is to snuff, then there's no reason why Lando couldn't carry McLaren on his shoulders to get them in the 3rd spot. Now, that doesn't also mean that I think Piastri's bad. He's no slouch. I just don't think he's going to earn them as many points to get very high when you're talking about the remaining teams like Ferrari and Mercedes. Like, those guys are just, it's going to be tight. It's just going to be a really tight race. And McLaren will just fall shy of the 2 spot, but they will be better than Mercedes. Number 2. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. If McLaren's not going to find a way to get the more points, that leaves number 2 at Ferrari. Now, plain and simple, I need Ferrari to perform well this season for my sanity's sake. If I see Leclerc bin it into a wall, or have a fuel line or clutch line or brake line, or one of those lines break in a formation, or Sainz's car burst into flames, or a pit stop malfunction that just blows everyone's mind away, I will lose my gourd. That's where we're getting. Year in and year out, they are always competitive and they're always promising good results, and then, well, you watched last year, you saw it, it just wasn't meant to be. But in all seriousness, I just think it will be a tight race between Ferrari and McLaren, and with Mercedes not far behind. So the reason I went number 2 for Ferrari is, yeah, partially due to my fandom and my hopes for the gap to be tighter between them and Red Bull, but also because Fred Vasseur is in his 2nd year. He's had a full season and now a full off season to see where this team is on and off the track. Leclerc is Leclerc. I mean, I hope he has a bounce back season from last year and not just be a qualifying specialist. If Leclerc can consistently get to podium and even win a few races, That's a lot of points that the other teams just won't have that they had last year because Leclerc DNF'd or had a poor strategy or wrecked into the wall or had a poor pit stop or something like that. So if Leclerc can go back to being what we think he can be, then those points are just for Ferrari's taking. And then also you combine that with Carlos Sainz's ability to find podiums and even find a race win throughout a season, you have yourself a solid team that's going to get you some points. As long as Ferrari doesn't get in Ferrari's way, then there's just no reason they should finish anywhere else but in second. Basically, I just mean the Leclerc-Sainz team is a better team than Norris, Piastri, or Hamilton-Russell. The coaching is there, the skill is there, the talent is there. So if the car is there, they are better than everyone except one other team. And that leads me to the number one team, no surprise, Red Bull. Quite simply put, last year's dominance will carry over. Christian Horner says they plan to see a gap closure, given the fact that they finished so far ahead last year. And I mean, that makes sense because when you don't necessarily know what to improve upon to your car, it's going to be difficult to separate yourself from the teams that do know what they need to do to catch up. So the gap will naturally close. But I don't think Red Bull, with Verstappen, are in any danger of being dethroned. Short of a catastrophic engineering failures or unfathomable bad luck on the race days, they're too good. Verstappen is too good. And when you have that best car and the best driver combo, and you win every race damn near by country miles week in and week out last year, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to continue their dominance. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. It'd be nice to put Ferrari up at number one, but it's just they're too good, and there's nothing there that shows me they're going to slow down. You also can't forget about Sergio Perez. His future is on the line. I mean, he's not sitting there going like, oh, I'm okay with losing my seat next year. Like, he wants to keep his seat. You know, he wants his chances at, being legendary and being a part of that Red Bull team that's just so dominant. So he's more than capable of overtaking the likes of Charles Leclerc or Lando Norris or even Lewis Hamilton on any given race with that Red Bull car. So that's why I have Red Bull at number one. I'm going to have to see something from them that would tell me that they just don't have what it takes to win again. I hope I'm wrong, but it is what it is. Red Bull will win the Constructors' Cup 2024. And there you go. The 2024 predictions for the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull takes the crown again, while everyone else is hopefully closing the gap. We have hopefully Williams closing the gap in the mid-tier, and maybe we get surprised and Alpine does better than Aston Martin. That's what we have the season. But that's what I got for the year. And if you enjoyed the content, please consider liking and subscribing. It would help me out a lot. And just a reminder that my Twitch handle will be in the description, so we can have some fun little video game time prior to race weekend next week. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and have fun out there. Bye.